Good evening, I'm Karima Brown. It's Sunday night and it's time for The Fix. With President Cyril Ramaphosa's economic stimulus package announced, we unpack its viability and more critically ask where the money will come from to make it a reality. Then we take a look at the banking sector's testimony at the Zondo Commission into state capture and how it was bullied by some of former President Zuma's closest allies with the assistance of some in the cabinet and the African National Congress. And finally, the woman of the hour, COSATU President Zingizwa Losi, South Africa's largest trade union federation's brand new president. Can she forge unity not only among COSATU unions, but also her former home NUMSA? And just how will she wear her multiple hats in the tripartite alliance while putting her members first? The Fix starts now. This is The Fix, where every Sunday night, without fear or favor, we question the big role players. We will look ahead to tell you what matters, how it affects you, and why you should care. With me, as usual, is my sparring partner, Sunday Times and Business Day columnist, Peter Bruce. Hi, Peter.
Karima, how's it? How are you doing? Nice to see you again tonight.
Yes, man.
Yeah, it's been a week overseas. Theresa May went to Salzburg towards the end of last week, rather expecting to finally make some progress in her negotiations to leave the European Union. And she had presented what we call the Checkers Plan a month ago, which caused her Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson to resign in a huff, and he called it like putting a suicide vest onto the British people. And she got much the same treatment to her surprise, from the EU leaders, who humiliated her basically and told her plan wouldn't work and to go back and do it again and start again.
Went down like a lead balloon.
Went down like a lead balloon. She was shocked and horrified. The pound fell out of bed. And she must be very close now or the party must be very close to either pushing her into calling another election sooner. They have until March 29 to get out, right? And you cannot get out of this thing without a deal. You have to have a deal. And the EU can't give in to any old demand from the British, because there are populist movements in all of its members now wanting something.
Yeah,
so
there's vested
they have to hold the line. And the Brits are not going to get anything easily. And what is also happening is that there's a growing demand in the UK, with the Labour Party now beginning to join it more and more openly, despite its rather puzzling leader, for a second vote.
They're smelling blood.
For a people's vote. In other words, they don't want Parliament to vote on a deal. They want a people's vote on the deal, which amounts to a kind of a referendum all over again.
Yeah.
So she's it's tough times for
she's
her.
in big trouble.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be the Prime Minister of Great Britain right now, no.
And off on the other side of
the other side of the pond. On the other side of the pond, Donald Trump is having a hilariously difficult time. He has nominated a new judge for the American Supreme Court. And, when you're an American president, you have this fantastic privilege because these people stay there for life.
Yeah, they're your legacy.
So you can leave a conservative on the Supreme Court many years, decades after you stop being the president. He nominated this conservative judge, a guy called Brett Kavanaugh, and he was on the point of just sailing through the nomination process in the Senate when news began to leak and then developed until she was identified. Somebody's accused him of sexually assaulting her when they were in their late teens at a party. I think it was 1989 or so, and that has caused all sorts of problems. Trump is sort of sitting in the White House saying, vote, vote, vote.
Tweeting desperately.
Yeah. Republicans are saying, hang on a second, we want to hear from this woman before we put our hands up for this guy.
I mean, there's a change of mood in the world around things like this.
No, absolutely. I mean, and this woman, Christine Blasey Ford, is now going to come to the Senate and tell her story. And it's going to be a very, very big deal. And it's not going to be nice. Brett Kavanaugh is, in the meantime, taking mock interviews now adding in questions about his sex life and his private life and his drinking habits. And apparently he's refusing to answer some of the questions that, these are White House staffers testing him, seeing how far that they can push him. So it's high drama in Washington as usual. And for us back here, very entertaining. We think our politics are rough. They're rough everywhere, I tell you.
No, of course they are rough. And of course, it doesn't get rougher than a divided African National Congress. We saw this week on the eve of the South African Reserve Bank, making an announcement on whether or not they're going to raise interest rates. The governing African National Congress issues two statements. The first statement, very lengthy, trying to kind of tell the Reserve Bank what to do, essentially.
Yeah.
And then, of course, a very fast retraction with Enoch Godongwana, the head of the Economic Transformation Committee's name on it, saying that they respect the Reserve Bank's independence and that this was not an attempt to influence it, and, of course, that the previous statement is not policy of the African National Congress.
See,
I mean, for anyone looking for policy certainty, this must be a nightmare.
No, it is, and but it's part of a greater and important debate, because our Reserve Bank, and it's not alone in the world, targets inflation. Inflation is a particularly pernicious thing. Once it gets hold of you and you don't have much money, the price of almost anything can run away from you if you don't careful. And so this is the article of faith that the South African Reserve Bank uses. On the other hand, the American Fed, the US Fed, targets growth and employment, which is what quite a lot of people in the ANC would rather our Reserve Bank did. The danger, you can do that if you print the world's currency.
Yes.
Because whatever US inflation might be, they can cope with it by printing more money or whatever, assuming they had lost their minds. Here, there are people arguing, and it came up quite a lot. It's a kind of a leftish kind of argument. Target growth, target unemployment with your interest rates rather than inflation. But from what I've read about inflation and how it works and what it can do to you if you lose control of it, inflation of 10, 12, 15% would be devastating. And we just don't want to go down the route, the other route.
Peter, I must tell you, I am sympathetic to the other view. What I'm not sympathetic to is an African National Congress that is not sure what it's telling the social partners, particularly, and it looked to me as if President Cyril Ramaphosa was being, there was an attempt to try and sabotage what he was going to announce the next day. I mean, the timing in politics, as you know, is everything. For Enoch Godongwana to come onto radio and to defend the fact that the person issuing the statement was a master's economics student. By the way, they've banned her from ever speaking about economics ever again.
Yes.
And so
they probably shouldn't have allowed her to do that in the
precisely,
first place.
And no one can actually explain who authorized the statement, although Pule Mabe's name is on both statements. Enoch assured me that Pule had nothing to do with the matter. So, it's fun and games in the African National Congress.
The ANC is not a model organization in terms of its administration, as we know, and frequently falls over itself.
Absolutely. And I mean, today, if one looks at the front page of the Sunday Times, it says, mystery as Zuma ducks out to Doha. Now, I mean, all of these things begin to pull together. Last week, we had the so-called plot of a meeting in Durban between Zuma and what was left of the so-called Premier League. And here you have the government saying that it had no idea that its former president was visiting the emir in Qatar. And apparently it's completely outside of protocol. Every former president has to inform the South African government. And it was so bad, Peter, that the South African representative alerted Lindiwe Sisulu, the Minister for International Cooperation. And then, of course, there's all these wonderings. What do you think that former President Zuma wants from the emir?
Well,
Some
look,
money?
The moment you're talking about those Gulf states, it's banking and money. Why the emir? I don't know what the personal relationship.
Apparently, a very good relationship.
Okay, good. The President Zuma is happy to use his privileges to attend ANC meetings. He should probably use his privileges or his responsibilities to behave as the next head of state until the government where he's going It's bad behavior, it doesn't surprise me, and we have no idea what he was doing there. Hopefully the mystery will be cleared up in next week's edition of the Sunday Times.
Absolutely. And of course, Cyril Ramaphosa also saying on the sidelines of that stimulus meeting that he doesn't know what President Zuma was doing in Qatar. Well, on the fix, we dig deep. President Cyril Ramaphosa's stimulus plan was, of course, dismissed by some as, old wine in new bottles. And others were saying it was exactly what the economy requires to kickstart. Economist Lumkile Monde is up first to assess with us, of course, after the ad break. He's going to talk to us about the stimulus package.